Welcome back, guys. Welcome to another episode of the SDOVCC podcast. We're here with Enchante Brown, and she's gonna give you guys an overview of what is done community under DFC. Without further ado, let me introduce you all to.
Hi, everyone. My name is Enchante Brown, and I am the DFC project coordinator. So, for those who may not know who we are, maybe a bit familiar about what we do, DFC stands for Drug Free Communities, and we are a drug free community coalition. The Drug Free Communities Coalitions came about in 1997 from the Drug Free Communities Act with the goal of getting local community partners to come together and find ways to reduce youth substance use in their areas. And as of today, there are over 700 DFC coalitions across the country, with us being one here in sunny South Florida. So for us in particular, we got our start back in 2014 as a DFC mentee under the Miami Coalition. Because we were just a new organization, the coalition started back in 2011. And so being a mentee allowed us to strengthen our presence in the community before applying on our own in 2019. And so where we are, our office is located in Cutler Bay, Florida, and we cover the area of West Perrine to Homestead, Florida, and our focus is on the underage use of alcohol as well as marijuana. And so as DFC coalitions, we have our funding for this, but we also have additional funding that has helped us um, expand our range as well as things that we are able to do. So we do have CARA, which is the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act grant, which allowed us to expand to the Kendall area and address the opioid crisis that's going on in the United States. And we also receive funding from Thriving Mind South Florida, which covers alcohol, marijuana, prescription medications, including opioids. And the activities done under that grant kind of supplements what I do under my DFC grant. And so when it comes to what I do under the DFC, we get our framework from CACA's 7 strategies for creating effective community change. And pretty much that helps us with structuring our activities and ranges from providing information through presentations or pamphlets, billboards that you may see in the community, as well as enhancing the skills of the public through workshops and summits for both kids and adults, to changing our environment and more so the behavior of the youth and adults by getting businesses and retailers involved through activities like alcohol compliance checks and marijuana scans, which I will expand on a bit later on. And so, like I mentioned before, under DFC, we focus on 2 different things, alcohol and marijuana. And the reason why we picked these 2 in particular is because we noticed in our area that at the time when we were, going out for the funding, that these were the 2 main drugs of choice by the kids in our area. And so we try and focus on both middle and high school students, primarily ages 13 to 18, because at the young age, this is kind of when they're being introduced to these different drugs, seeing it in their community, sometimes in the home, by their friends, on social media, on TV and stuff like that. And so when it comes to alcohol in particular, we do a little different activities in order to address this. So for one, we have responsible beverage service package, also known as VID. So if you've ever gone to like a gas station, maybe a grocery store like Publix, Winn-Dixie, you may see a sign, it's in yellow, red, and black that says We Card or VID. And this is a standard, it is a requirement in the state of Florida as well as Miami-Dade County that any location who sells alcoholic beverages checks for ID before they sell it. Because as everyone should know, the legal drinking age here is 21. And so something that we do is we like to make sure that businesses are knowledgeable about this if they're unaware, as well as holding them accountable so that we know for a fact that they have the signage and that they are following it. And so what we do is just all the different like gas stations or even different retailers in our area, we go and we check to make sure that they have that signage. And if we don't, we provide them with the signage as well as information about the Florida State statute, the Miami-Dade County ordinance, so that they are aware of why we're giving this to them and the importance of it. And you're muted.
It's actually funny, my bad, guys. But it's actually funny you mentioned the signage because I remember growing up and seeing even some restaurants they had the countdown. So some had the countdown clock as well. So that was pretty cool. Or they had the sign where it'd be like if your birthday didn't fall under this amount of days, or they had the birthday or the actually what was the current date that you weren't allowed to purchase or consume any alcohol on the premises. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty cool. And I feel like it's so important now because again, now we're since COVID and things like that, youth have been trying going out to buy alcohol and not only that, but adults are also, they're not supposed to supply the youth with alcohol. So that's a major thing I'm pretty sure you'll touch on as well.
Yes. So I'm so glad you brought that up. So for those when he was talking about the counter, it's called a legal age counter. It initially started with the whole thing about nicotine so that it's easier to kind of calculate what, your birthday or the year you were born and figure out if you're able to purchase. And so we also do provide that. If a store does not have it, if they do have signage but not the legal age counter, we do offer it to them. Of course, everything that we do is free of charge so that, sometimes you're looking at it, you may not remember like some people math depending on the year you can't really tell 21 years ago, and so it's just a lot easier for them to try and figure that out so that they don't have to do the calculations on their own. And of most of the stores we go to, they have it full on display, facing the direction of the customer so that they can see it themselves as well as the person behind the counter. And so with the sign that we provide, it also informs the community about the consequences of providing minors with alcohol. So it tells them the fine that they can get as well as the prison sentence they can get if they're caught buying it for minors or if a minor themselves tries and purchase it. And so over the past 10 years that we've been doing this, we visited over 50 gas stations, about 15 liquor stores in our area. And of course, this can vary if, stores open, store closed, things like that. But we try and at least go to each location once to make sure they have the signage. And there have been times where stores have been under construction and it's like, okay, at that time you may not have it, but we will follow back up just to make sure you have that so it protects you as well as the community. And so, in addition to that, having the sign is great. It is the first step, but more has to be done. It's one thing to be knowledgeable, but it's another thing to make sure that you're doing the actions to make sure that alcohol isn't getting in the hands of kids. And so, what we do are compliance checks. And so, the way that we work with this is that we go into the different locations. So, of course, we make sure you have the signs, and a couple months later, we go in and we attempt to purchase the alcohol. Now, when we do this, is typically within staff or volunteers. We always do it with somebody who's at least 21 years old because we never want to put a youth in that situation. And so we go and we attempt to purchase alcohol to make sure that they're following the rules of checking for ID. And if they don't, we do inform them about what the law is, the importance for checking for ID. And the whole goal isn't to get the business closed down. That's not what our goal is. It's just to make sure that it's not getting in the hands of the youth. So somebody, when I first started back in 2018, I had I didn't start until 2019, but when I first turned 21 in 2019 and I did it for the first time, I looked very young, a little bit younger than I do now. And it was interesting to see amount of people who just wouldn't check. And that is a problem if, somebody who looks like me, or there are people who look a bit mature for their age, they're able to purchase just based off of looks. That is a big issue. So we just want to stress the importance of always checking for ID. And one thing that is great that we notice that some locations do, like some 7-Eleven stores, is that the containers where the alcohol is, they have it locked. And so in order for you to even access it in the first place, you have to go to the counter. You have to say, I want to buy this. You have to show them your ID, and then they're able to go ahead and get it for you. So I think taking that extra step as a store owner is just a really, really great thing to do.
It's actually funny you mentioned that because, like you said, some may look older, some may look younger. So for me, it was like I've never tried to purchase alcohol before I turned 21, but I've always had a beard since high school. So I know
Mhm.
that if I would have probably attempted to, that they probably never questioned it. But again, now that I'm older, I can always show my ID and things like that. But it would be interesting, like I said, to just even be able to experience those different things and really get to understand why they choose, or what makes them choose or not ask. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And one thing that you did mention earlier was during the time of COVID. when everybody had the mask on. And so it was even harder at that time to check. And so during that time period, we went ahead and gave additional resources to the clerks and that worked at the different places. Like, yeah, everybody is 6 feet away, keep your mask on, but even just taking the 5 steps and ask them, can you go ahead and put your mask down just for 5 seconds so I know that the picture you're handing me of the ID matches your face was also a great thing seeing the different locations do that during that time because of course you really don't know anybody who's under the mask unless you can see them. And sometimes, stores will have to say, look, I'm sorry, but I can't sell it to you. And of course, it may be upsetting, but at the end of the day, you want to go ahead and protect not only you as a business, but protect the people that's out there. And so, in addition to that, so we're all about, providing information is a good thing. And sometimes we do want to get the youth involved. So, like I said, for compliance checks, if you're not 21, we don't do it. But we do have something called Project Sticker Shock, where our youth are able to get involved. And so that is about reminding the people not to buy alcohol for minors. So we have stickers and bottle hangers that we've gone out to these different retailers with the youth. And the sticker pretty much says, if they can't buy it, don't supply it. And so this was something that was created by the youth. They created their own stickers, they created the bottle hangers, they came up with the slogan, but it has the message of don't buy alcohol for minors because there are consequences of doing that. And so there are different ways that youth may try and obtain it. So they may try and purchase it themselves, or they'll say, hey, big cousin, can you go ahead and get this for me? You have some people who will stand outside the store and be like, hey, if I give you like $20, can you go ahead and buy this for me? And so those stickers, the importance of that is letting you know, don't do it. If they can't buy it themselves, don't put yourself in that situation and buy it for them because you can suffer consequences as well as the minor who's doing it. And so we tend to do this over big holidays because that's when the alcohol sale increases. So during times like Christmas and New Year's, Super Bowl Sundays, spring break, graduation time, that's when we really make it a push to hit all of the locations and so that everyone is made aware. And over, the 10 years that we've been doing this, we've had a 72% acceptance rate of stores who are willing to do it. Sometimes it's not even up to them. Of course, there's always this thing about corporate, but for those who are able to accept it, they go ahead and do that. And sometimes they'll let us do it. Sometimes they do it themselves. And there are times where they do it with us. We've had a few locations where they actually allow us to put it on the glass instead of just on the product, so that it's a reminder year round all the time about not buying alcohol for minors. And so some of the successes when it comes to this, of course, is just having the retailers participate in this, being in compliance with all of it. And like I said before, our goal is to prevent youth access to alcohol in any which way that we can, because by not having them gain access, we're also reducing alcohol related injuries, impaired driving crashes, as well as the legal consequences that they may suffer or the parent themselves may. And I guess I would say our greatest concern is just changing perception. And like I said, not that it's changing perception. And so with, like I said, Thriving Mind, which kind of supplements what we do, there's a lot of things that they do. And part of it is talking to a lot of the kids during their different projects. And we hear often that students say, for the most part, that their parents would disapprove of them drinking. But you do have that select few who they say, oh, my parents won't care. My parents won't notice. Oh, my parents may not know, but my siblings help me or my cousins help me. And so trying to change their minds and their behaviors about, the great risks that are involved is probably one of our greatest things that we have to deal with because they may not just truly understand the impact that it can have. You have to think about what they see on social media, what they see in movies, what they see on TV. You often see when you're watching different movies, a mother or a woman at the end of every night, she goes and pours herself a glass of wine. Or you have these shows where they're all high school, portraying high school students, but they're going to parties. And the first thing is you have to take a shot before you get into the door. So they're seeing these different things, and you have to themselves have to decide what is best for them. And so another positive and related to the different associated risk is that we have noticed that DUI arrest rates have decreased from 149.3 for every 10,000 people in 2014 when we first started to 32.0 per 10,000 people in 2020, which is a very, very big decrease. And we don't want to toot our own horn, but we think part of what we do kind of adds to that. And also DUI fatalities in Miami-Dade County rates remain lower than the Florida state average. And you're still muted.
And I feel like that's so I feel like that's so important, especially during this time of year, because everybody's traveling during the holidays. And again, you have these back-to-back holidays with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year. So these are all within three holidays and three large celebrated holidays within months of each other. So I just feel like this is so important. And it's funny you mentioned, so back when I used to do photo voice, like you said, perception is the biggest thing. So for some of the youth who were very open about maybe trying alcohol or they went to a party and took a shot, like you mentioned, you want to understand why. It's not always just to tear them down and just don't do this. And because when you increase a teenager's head with what not to do, you're just encouraging them to try and to do it. So the biggest thing I understood was just understanding why. What's the why? I feel like that's the biggest question everybody has is what made you try it? Were you at a party the first time you tried it? Were you at home? Were you pressured by your peers to try alcohol? And did that one time try turn into a habit? How often do you drink? Can we get you to stop drinking? What are the things? And that's why the big thing that we also talk about and incorporate with everything to do is alternatives. But we don't
Mhm.
want the youth always to just think that I need to turn to any substance. No, not just alcohol, it might be marijuana, vaping devices, or even opioids. But we want them to know that no matter what it is, there's always an alternative, a healthy alternative. So I just feel like again, the work we do is so important. And I'm hearing the numbers, they're going down again, not to their own horn, but it's the work that is done day in and day out that helps the youth and even adults see ways they can improve their life.
Correct. I completely agree. And that's why it's good having all these different initiatives under the different grants that can supplement the work we do so we can see whether or not it is being effective, whether or not we need to tweak what we're doing, if we need to change certain things. Because even hearing some of the kids say, oh, well, this place before they never used to check, but now they're checking. Or, I started seeing you guys' messages more around. Like even now we have a billboard, bus stations out there with, saying happy holidays, remain safe, the importance of not driving impaired. And so it's just putting the message out there, letting them know the importance, what the risks are, what the consequences is. And like you said, giving them alternatives. It's one thing to tell them not to do something, but if you're not giving them an alternative, something that is healthier for them to do, or like you said, if they're being peer pressured, giving them refusal skills so they know the best way to say no, then just giving them the information isn't enough. You have to be proactive and making sure they have the resources. And so, in addition to doing alcohol, our second drug that we focus on is marijuana. And so originally it was only just marijuana, but we had to include vaping marijuana because that is also a big thing that does happen in our area down here. And there are certain initiatives that we do to kind of focus on that. And one of them is environmental scans. So for anybody who is unaware about the legal status of marijuana, federally, marijuana use is illegal. In the state of Florida, we are considered a mixed state where medical marijuana use became legal in 2016, but adult use, often referred to as recreational use, is illegal. And so we do environmental scans in our community to see what is being sold in these vape shops and smoke shops, to obtain the knowledge of the retailers and see how often you've tried to buy. And also to see if they have a 21 plus sign visible. And so the first thing we would like to see when we go to the different vape shops or smoke shops is a sign outside of their door that says you cannot come in here unless you're 21. Because in reality, they should not be purchasing any marijuana paraphernalia if it's like a bong or a grinder or anything of those matters. If you're not able to smoke, why are you purchasing the items needed to smoke, right? So that's the first thing we would like to see, if not on the door, at least by the register. We also want to know what you all are selling. Are you selling hemp products? Are you selling Delta 8 or Delta 10? Are you selling hookahs or vape pens and different stuff like that? And we want to know what the retailers know. There have been times where we've gone to places and kind of off track, but Kratom is a thing that is also sold here. It's not illegal, but it's sold here. And we've had one retailer told us, "Oh yeah, no, Kratom is just like a healthy Percocet." And it's like, no, that's not true. And so we like to know what they know because you should be knowledgeable about what you're providing to people. Do you know how many milligrams or how many puffs come into, a vape product? Even when it comes to marijuana, like I said, vaping marijuana has been a big thing down here. So if you have THC concentrates, do you know what the percentage of THC is? If on average the THC level is supposed to be 20% and you're selling something with a high potency of 40 to 80%, are you aware of this? Do the people you're selling it to know the different dangers and consequences of this? Because if you don't, then you need to be educated about it. And so that's what we like to do with the marijuana scans and to kind of keep track of the different locations because new ones are popping up very frequently in our area. We have a mapping tool that we use to track the different locations, see how far are they from schools, how far are they from parks, how far are they from places that are frequented by our youth. We do have some in areas that's like you have a high school right here. All the kids have to do is walk 10 minutes away and they're at a vape shop. And so that is a big concern of ours. Once again, we don't want to take away from what adults do, but it is protecting youth, which is the most important because they are our future adults. And so just some kind of concerns that we have when it comes to this, or some things that we've noticed is that people, at least the youth in our area, use marijuana and vape products more than they drink alcohol. So to them, alcohol just has the worst taste in the world. And so they would rather smoke marijuana or they would rather vape, not only just because of the taste, but the accessibility. It to them it's just a bit easier. There was a point in time where you only had to be 18 in order to purchase it, and now the age is 21. And youth don't always realize what they're inhaling. So once again, when it comes to perception, recently, this year actually, we had a student who thought that the fruity flavors meant that the vapes were healthier because it was made from actual fruit. And in a non-judgmental way, we had to explain to them that's not the fact. The fruit flavor that you're tasting is just flavor grade, um, just like chemicals and stuff. And so it's meant to mimic the taste of natural fruit. And so imagine if he didn't know this. Imagine if this is what he's telling his friends or what a bunch of them are thinking. That's an issue because you don't know what you're consuming. And
Yeah, I think
then, mhm,
I was gonna say I just think the miseducation is the biggest point, and that's why I feel like we come into play and our work really gets, counted for because like you said, some of these shops are not even aware of what they're selling. So when you have youth who are easily influenced, when they walk into a smoke shop and you get miseducated by someone who works in that type of field in the retail business, you would expect them to know they're miseducated. And then when they pass that message on to their friends, oh, it's not that bad. It's just fruit. So then that message gets passed on. And it's like playing a game of telephone. So that's
right,
why we interject ourselves and we're able to provide them with the correct information, the harmful effects that, like I said, marijuana and alcohol has, especially for younger, growing, developing teens, the brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25 years of age. So I just feel like, again, miseducation is our biggest thing. And we want to make sure we're pushing out not only the right thing, but the most updated information. We continue to update ourselves and we're always learning because it's so important to understand not only what we're saying, but what we have to teach and inform other people, especially those who are younger. Teens are always, their brains are going a million miles a minute. So we have to be able to provide them with information that's very quick but gets to the point.
yes, I do agree. And I don't want to knock down the businesses. There are some places where we've gone into and the retailers, they know everything about every product in there. They're happy to explain it to you. And even when the kids come in, there was a time a kid came in the shop and he sat there and explained all the different things. And the kid said, okay, well, can I have this? And he said straight up, no. He says, I know you're a kid. I know you don't even have an ID. So no, I was willing to, listen to you, hear you out, explain the different things so but I'm not gonna give it to you. And that was to us one of the most beautiful things ever because he took the time, he explained what the product was, he explained the different risks, he explained why some people use it, why you shouldn't use it. If you're taking this, then don't use that. He was very knowledgeable about it. And he let the kid look around and said no. Because sometimes you can't always kick people out at the door. Even like what Anthony said earlier, he's had a beer since high school, but he's over 21 now, so you can't just necessarily judge a person just off they look, which is why, of course, IDing is the most important thing. But I guess because he knew the kid, it was like, yeah, I know. And so, yeah, definitely change of perception is a big thing. Making sure these retailers are knowledgeable is also important. And even when it comes to being at home, and this is an unfortunate case, but edibles. Now, edibles, I guess the big thing when it comes to that is that kids are taking it and are unintentionally consuming these edibles. And even thinking back to 2 months ago in Broward County, there were 6 kids who were at this Boys and Girls Club. It's on the news, and they were all hospitalized. The kids were between the ages of 6 to 8 because one of the students he came in, he had gummy edibles, didn't know that they were gummy edibles, and shared it with his friends, and they all end up hospitalized. And this is a common thing, especially when it comes to edibles, that younger kids are consuming it because they don't know whether it's because they can't read or they just see the packaging and it looks like something they're familiar with. And a majority of the blame goes to the people who are making the products. So you have like Stony Patch, which is greatly resembles the Sour Patch Kids. You have Love Savers, which resembles Lifesavers. You have Buttheads, which resemble Warheads. They're making these products to resemble things that you're all familiar with because people like candy, and so you make it what people like. And the younger kids, they're unaware of this. Or even as teenagers and adults, you're taking it not knowing that this amount of concentration or this amount of milligrams, is too harmful. And so more than anything, we're seeing emergency room visits for young kids accidentally consuming marijuana edibles. And so, of course, in instances like this, or even when it comes to, binge drinking or alcohol poisoning, if you notice something, please immediately call 911. The best thing you can do, of course, you don't want to get in trouble, but it's better to save a life than do absolutely nothing because you're afraid of getting in trouble. So call 911, take them to the hospital. But additionally, if you have questions, just standard questions, you can also call your poison control centers. Their number is available 24/7, all the time. The information that they give you, it is free, it is personalized, and it's given by a medical professional and expert in the field. And that number is 1-800-222-1222. And you can also just visit www.poison.org to find out information. And most people, when they think of poison control, they just think of like household cleaning project, like, oh, I swallow bleach or this and that, but they do more than just that. You can ask them a range of questions like, I have this medication and I took 2 doses of it. What's going to happen? Or I have this medication. Is it going to interfere with what I have for this? I have this. What are the side effects? Oh, I think I mixed up my pills. Can you tell me what they are? They provide that kind of information. If you have information or questions about different alcohols or marijuana or edibles and stuff, they will answer your questions. And if you're seeing different signs and you tell them that, they will tell you if you need to go to the hospital, they'll give you all that information. And so if you don't have poison control number, I will definitely say save it in your phone, put it as a favorite, write it down somewhere where people can see it, because they are a great additional resource for just standard questions. And so, in addition to the environmental strategies that I spoke about above, we do provide just, standard information to the general population. And we do that through parent cafes, youth cafes, we host focus groups, we've done presentations at different schools, and then just, general events that happen outside in the community. And once again, of course, we give the information, but we also like to do activities so people can see, get a visual of the things that we talk about. And one way we do this is through fatal vision simulation goggles. And oftentimes at events, we normally do the marijuana ones just because it's less stuff, but we also do one for impaired driving, which is very popular when we do our presentations, our underage drinking and impaired driving presentations at school, because it allows students to actually see, quote unquote, see what we're talking about. And so when it comes to the alcohol goggles, it shows the difficulties with doing basic tasks when you're under the influence. And that's for driving, walking in a straight line, doing the leg stand, tossing a ball. And so typically what we do is after we give the presentation, we have these goggles with different BAC levels, the blood alcohol content level. And so we have different students, one for each goggles, come up and they try to do this driving obstacle course. It's just a mat on the floor. They have a wheel with a little toy car at the bottom, and they try and go through this little maze. And then after that, we toss them a ball to see if they're able to catch it, to see how their coordination is off and everything. And we don't just like to say, oh, his BAC level is this, which means X, Y, and Z. No, we have the student who did the activity go ahead and explain to his classmates what he saw, what he felt. And as they go up and they see that it gets worse, it gets more difficult to see, you have blurry vision or you have double vision, the students can say, oh my gosh, like what you're saying is actually makes sense because of X, Y, and Z reason. And so we don't just like to talk to them. We like to show them, of course, in a controlled environment where we're not actually giving them the drug, the different things that people experience when they're actually on the substance.
And I feel like field vision, the field vision goggles, it's such a tool because like I spoke about alternatives, but you do have a lot of curious teens. A lot of remember, these teens are so curious and they're interested to know. And again, they may not want to take the risk, but they still have that desire and that drive to know. So with the field vision goggles, you really give them a trial. You know, it's in a safe environment, but they get to see and get an idea what it feels like. And that also can let them know it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially getting these things on your record, they're there for the rest of your life, but you'll be able to experience and witness what it could be like. And that, that's enough satisfaction for most people to know that I wouldn't even want to put myself through this because of the simple fact that I can't operate like this. I can't catch a little plastic ball or move a toy car, couldn't even fathom having to operate a vehicle and get home safely.
Right. And we also like to remind them, because once again, this is done in the classroom setting, we do like to remind them that this doesn't take into account what you see outside. We're in sunny South Florida where it could be sunny at 11:02 a.m. and then at 11:03 it's pouring down rain. So you're not taking into account the weather conditions, the changing of the lights. You have other people on the road. Some people don't like to use blinkers when they change lanes. So it's like your reaction time, what you see, all these different things, aren't accounted for when we're doing the activity. So imagine if you're having difficulty like something like this, how much worse it can be when you're actually out there on the road. And like I said, we do the alcohol goggles, but we also have it for marijuana, and that models the loss of short-term memory. It shows how your altered visual perception and slight loss of motor coordination. And so that is kind of a ball activity where you have to put it's three different color balls, black, orange, and red, and you have to put them in color order. And it kind of shows you. So you do it without the goggles, and we time you, and then you do it with the goggles, and it kind of shows you how things are slower, how if it's in the exact same pattern, but you can't even remember how you did it less than 10 seconds ago. So it shows you all these different things. And then once again, in the classroom setting, we do it the goggles, but in a driving activity, because some people think you can drive on after using marijuana, and it's like, no, you're still affected by it. And so we'll have two students sit in the front of the class, one with the goggles, one without it, and we'll let them know they'll have a video playing, and it's like, raise your hand when it's time for you to stop. And each and every time you see that the person who has the goggles on, they raise their hand a lot later than they should compared to the person who doesn't have on the goggles. So it kind of just shows you how your perception is affected, how your distancing is affected, your reaction time is slowed down. And so once again, it's just a way for them to see these different things in a controlled environment. And as Anthony mentioned earlier, telling them not to do something or you shouldn't do this because of why isn't enough. We have to always provide alternatives. And, you know, youth reasons for doing things vary. Some people try this because of peer pressure. For some people, they're used to seeing it because they grow up with it in a home. Some are just curious. Some are bored. It may just be an accidental thing. And so we also, in addition to providing them the information, want to let them know there are different things you can do instead. And so we like to teach them refusal skills, ways to say no, like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Or even it's like, oh, I have a test tomorrow or I have a game later today. I don't want to be impacted. Like just teaching them different ways to say no rather than just saying no. And we also like to teach them how to manage their emotions without dismissing it or giving judgment because of how they respond to trauma or peer pressure. So people are going to get anxious, people are going to get nervous, people are going to want to fit in. And so just teaching you different ways to deal with, being in different environments so you have practice or you know how to respond when you're actually put in that situation. And then, kind of finally, what I would like to touch on is our youth coalition. So, as a DFC coalition, we don't do the work by ourselves. So, yes, I'm a staff member, but we have outside organizations who assist us with what we do as well as we assist them. And one thing that's a requirement of a DFC coalition is to have representation from 12 different sectors. And so, just really quick, that are youth, parents, businesses, media, schools, youth serving organizations, law enforcement, religious organizations, volunteer groups, healthcare professionals, um, like state government agencies, and other organizations. But first and foremost, youth are mentioned, and that's with the reason. We can't do anything that we do without the guidance of youth. If youth are who we are serving, we need to make sure what we're doing is beneficial to them. And so back when I first started in 2018, there was one of the youth who was a part of the coalition. She was always there at the meetings. Her name is Joy. She's been around since then and she's still here. And she started building the youth coalition back when Devin was the DFC project coordinator, which more than anything, I think the people in the community know Devin a lot because he was always out there, always talking to people, always giving out information. And so they started building it about 2 years ago. And in October of 2022, so just a little over a year ago, we put together our first youth social, or let me rephrase, Joy put together her first youth social. And so the Youth Coalition, it is youth-led and adult guided. And so they put together every event they like to do. They curate their own social media, and we just kind of, approve it in a sense or say, yes, that's something we can do, or we may have to tweak this and this and that. But everything under the Youth Coalition is put together by the youth. And so currently, right now, we do have Joy, who is our chairperson, and we have two vice chairs, Haley and Sina. And then we have 10 Youth Coalition members. And what their role is educating their own peers about substance use and the related factors. And so what they've done over the youth socials that they've had is make it themed to a related topic. So the first one that we had in October of last year, it was just a general, introduction to the Youth Coalition. But the next one they had was a self-love youth social. So for that one, they talked about the importance of self-love, the importance of loving yourself, accepting yourself for where you are in life and where you want to be in life. And then they did one on painting with a twist. And that was about healthy alternatives, showing that you can be together with your friends, you can have a good time doing something healthy like drawing and painting. And then as of recently, in December of this year, we did a stress-free game night. So once again, just being together with your friends, having a good time, playing games. And then we also had a talk on mental health, healthy coping skills, and mindfulness. So it's not one thing to just talk about the drugs, but we want to also introduce different things to you to show you the importance or show you how things are related and how it can also impact you. And the cool thing about it is that when you're part of the youth coalition, you have, of course, the opportunity to put on events, but there's also leadership opportunities. You can be on the youth coalition board, you can be an officer in a different role, and then you can also build your skills through different conferences. Like recently over the summer, we took the chair and the two vice chairs with us to the CACA conference in Dallas, Texas, where they themselves had to, you know, they had their own separate growth track for the youth, but they talked about what our community is. They put an action plan together themselves. They talked about, the different drug trends, what they're seeing in their own schools, and ways that they want to go ahead and fix the problem. And so we do this. We allow them to come with us to conferences, build on their skills so that when they come back to the community, they're better equipped to teach as well as educate the kids.
Yeah, and again, I just feel like, and I said I've worked with Joy. We've all, seen her, and she does great work with the Youth Coalition, as well as her two vice chairs. It's just so important. I just feel like, again, all the work we do day in, day out, through the week, sometimes on the weekends, we have events and do certain things. It's all impactful, it's always important. And I don't want no one to feel down. If you are going through something, this is for youth or adults, you can feel free to call us. We visit our website at www.ovccsd.org. There's plenty of information on there for you. We have wellness, so many more things as well. But if you need someone to speak to, 988 has a hotline, and it's for, suicide or crisis hotline, and they're available 24 hours, text or call. So again, that you can, use that number to reach out if you ever need anything. But again, it's just always important to understand that these substances aren't going anywhere. They're here to stay, but we're also here to educate. It takes not only one person, but also takes community to combat substance use.
Yes, beautifully said. And just lastly, if you do want to participate in the things that we do, if you do want to join forces with us, we do have bi-monthly coalition meetings. So every other month, typically the even months, the second Friday, we do have a coalition meetings from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. So just send us an email at info@ovccsd.org. So you're interested in learning more about the coalition, you think it would be a great partnership, and we will respond to you and see what way we can collaborate with each other.
And with that being said, hope you guys had a lot of information. Till next time.
Bye, guys.